Hello guys, I'm here to talk to you about patch 6.22. And now I know I already did a rundown for 6.22, but a lot of people have been asking Scarra, what do you think about the new patch? What do you think about X and Y champion? What do you think about these items? What do you think about the patch? And I thought that, you know what, it's probably easier for me to just have a long video of talking about this patch rather than me trying to individually answer every single question about every single champion. So in this patch, I played for about a week. I think I've covered about 30 to 40 games overall over both my accounts in the last week. I have a pretty decent understanding of the current patch. I just like to share my thoughts with you guys. Overall, I'm going to be running down all the assassin reworks, every single one. I'm going to be running down what I generally think about assassins, moving to, I guess, other parts of the patch, and then closing on things that I think need to be looked at or changed or removed or nerfed, buffed to make the game in a better state. So let's start. So we're gonna just move down the list from assassins from top to bottom. So let's start at Talon. I think Talon was one of their best reworks. In general, I think that Talon is just super good. In terms of just playing the champion, it really makes you feel like a slippery assassin. I think that's ideal in the champion, to be honest. Now, I give a good example. You feel very slippery. You like jump over pillars. If you hit and confirm your W, you're able to jump in with Q. Your most common harass or spell rotation is going to be W and fish for the back. And then if you hit him on the both side angles, you Q to him and jump to him as a gap closer and auto him and then proc your passive. And that'll do about 50 to 60% of the opposing player's health, and you can ulti the follow-up or any of that kind of stuff. In general, though, playing him feels very, very strong. Right now, I'm doing what I saw Faker do, which is the CDR boots, Ghost Flash, Youmu's into Duskblade Cleaver. And you're just taking advantage of your high mobility with Ghost to be able to chase people down and being able to roam across the map, because you can clear backline on one of the purchases of the Youmu's buy. I think that it's relatively very fun to play this champion, and I think he feels much better than he used to. I think that he is definitely more viable because you can, even with just last season, you can kind of sustain yourself in lane. I really like the current talent as it is right now. I hope, and if there is something a little bit too annoying by him, I think the best thing to nerf is probably the base cooldown of his leap, because I like the fact that he can parkour, but probably doing it so quickly, especially on level 1, is maybe not ideal. So maybe that's something they might want to look at if they feel like the champion itself is too powerful. Going on, moving to Cat, I will say I think Cat's way more fun to play than she used to be. You do have like this new mini game, but the mini game is fun for the Cat player, and it gives the other team something to look at to be able to dodge the Cat damage. I think that that's pretty ideal. However, I think that she lost a lot after wave clear, and so her early level 1 and 2, like if she can't shove out, then it's really easy to take advantage of her. Just in general, I think that she's still not going to see much play because her lane still isn't very good till like after 3+, and even then, still not fantastic. I think that since she's more fun to play, though, overall the rework is fine. However, I find that especially getting shoved in, for instance, level 2, I used to skill Q to W, but since Q bounces on one less creep and doesn't do the same amount of high base damage on throw, and W no longer gives you a spin to bring the creeps within one auto attack of last hitting, like right under the tower, you're really struggling to last under the tower, especially if they pressure you really, really hard. I think that kind of sucks. I think that if there was a way to make it a little bit better for her, she might be better. At the moment, I think that people are really overrating this champion. I think that she still has a lot of similar problems as she did before. However, that I think that because she has such high mobility, the champion itself is just more enjoyable to play, personally. I think that the rework is okay, and I think that they're just kind of missing like a little bit, making her, I guess, good overall. But I mean, she does snowball like a monster still, so it's hard to really balance her when you have something like a full reset mechanic on the champion. I think that item build right now on the champion, you can rush Ryze or Ludens depending on if you need the health utility or not, and then you kind of just go whatever item builds you want. I've seen Gunblade being used. I think that's kind of like just a really snowbally build. I think it's kind of, you build the same as you did before. However, Ryze is more effective because due to how much mobility you have, you can chase people down a lot easier. Overall, the champion feels very fun to play. I enjoy it, but I still realize that she still maintains a lot of the similar weaknesses that she had before, where she doesn't, her wave clear is not great unless you Q can jump to the Q W and get double spin on the backline to clear it, and that's really unsafe if the other player can harass you at all. Moving on, I think that LeBlanc kind of made a really big stylistic change. I think she used to be like this backline diver that just one-hit backlines and really squishy champions. So I remember LeBlanc when she was meta, where they could play LeBlanc and the other team would have a Zyra, and you would W, Q, ulti, E, and the Zyra die instantly. And like there wasn't much counterplay, but that's just how I remember that champion. She was really good at killing backline. The new LeBlanc, however, is one way more dominant in lane. I think level 2, she can either choose Q and you W backline, and you Q and you can take it and you can kill backline at level 2, which is insane. Like that hasn't happened really since like any champion that can clear waves really early, like Talia and Aurelion Sol, have always been problematic because it creates so much early lane pressure. And usually it means that the champion is really strong. At least at wave clearing, it's relatively huge strength. Additionally, if you hit the chain, you automatically proc your passive. So if you WE and they're at 60% and you ignite them, you just kill them, because you essentially double your E damage because your passive does insane damage. So one of the highest damage abilities in her kit. So a lot of her damage got reshuffled to her passive. I think her early and even her mid game is really, really strong. Probably one of the best in the game, period. However, the trade-off is that LeBlanc is no longer a backline killer, because you need probably like a couple seconds to be able to proc your market. It's really telegraphed. And if you're next to an AD carry for 2 seconds, he will burn your health bar to the ground, or any backliner, to be fair. So it's really difficult to kill backline. I think she turns into like a frontline. She plays the team fight front to back, meaning she kills frontline and then goes for backline. And I think that that's way different than what used to happen. So generally people think it's like kind of a nerf toward the late game, especially because champions like Ryze exist that can kill frontline way better than she can. But just in general, the entire kind of play pattern of LeBlanc changed. Harass structure going from W in and queuing the backline and to hit the champion to harass, everything from E, W into E, and then if you confirm E, you can almost get a guaranteed kill. Stuff like queuing and then W and then ulting again to proc the passive mark with your Q to do a lot of damage. Like that's like a new harass kind of style. I think that in general the champion itself is just very different from the rework, more different than any other of the champions, I think. And I think that that's why so many people, especially the first day, told me LeBlanc was garbage, and then the second day, third day, people are like, oh shit, LeBlanc's actually really good, in like her own specific way. And so I think she is actually probably one of the strongest assassins right now, even though her niche kind of flip-flopped. I think that there's a good chance that she will see competitive play, especially if she's left in the current state that she is. Lastly, Rengar. My biggest problem with Rengar actually is I can't tell what he's doing. I think the animations for Rengar are just really ugly. So he's got a new auto attack animation, I think, and his Q animation makes it, plus his auto attacks makes him look like he's just like missing autos. And so I can't really tell what kills me. Like, I don't know. The whole Q animation, the leaping forward and like clawing you, just cuts into his auto attack animation and looks really clunky. I think it's just really frustrating to play against because I'm not sure how the damage is layered. Even like I see it, I understand. I can't tell when like the Q ends and the auto attack starts. And just in general, I feel like he looks clunky. Either to play or to play against, he just feels really weird. I think he's probably too strong right now. But I have not personally played him, so but the general, like, I'm keeping my ear to the ground, and people are telling me Rengar is super, super good. And I believe them because I just think that he's able to gain ferocity probably too fast to get a lot of his ferocity powered abilities. And I think it's pretty common to like, especially like to get almost 2 ferocity abilities inside the fight because you can just spam this stuff, and it's kind of scary to me. Another thing I want to say is that, yeah, visually it's really hard to play against because even when he has the Olaf ulti, which has CC immunity, you can't really tell. Like Olaf gets really big in red, and so you know, oh, you can't touch this guy with any CC. But Rengar gets like something, like he shouts and then like maybe has like a little visual thing, but it's not very obvious to me. So it's very, very hard for me to be like, oh, you know, and he's definitely unCCable there. So I have to be watching him specifically. If it's a team fight and he roars randomly, then I could just miss it completely. I feel really bad trying to CC some guy who's unCCable because it's not clear that he is. And usually Riot's really, really good at this kind of stuff. A good example also of something that just needs that doesn't have visual clarity is Cat's E. I remember before Cat had like a very obvious like shift when she used her E. Now the E is just like instantaneous. All you hear is the sound, and visually you don't really see anything. She just kind of appears. Like I know a lot of people are calling him like whatchamacallit, the fourth Hokage, like the yellow flash or something like that, and it really does feel like that, where he just like randomly like disappears from one area, appears over there. I feel like Shovel before visually and gave you like a much more like you knew you were using it, and now it just feels kind of you just move from one spot to the other. Like I think they lost a visual clarification in the rework that I would like to see back again. Not only just for the Cat player, but also for the people playing against the Cat. I think that maybe because she had like a kind of a fade away to show that she had damage reduction before, and maybe that's why I think it had more visual cues. But at the moment, it just feels like when I use Cat E, it's just kind of weird. But generally, I haven't played much Rengar. However, I think that he's really, really strong. And a lot of it comes from the fact that his damage is crazy. With Ferocity, he clears really, really well. And the biggest problem I have with Rengar is that like visual clarity is very poor with Rengar in general. And maybe his like kit's overtuned, but that's something that I'll see later on. Moving on from that, we have Fizz. So Fizz is... Whew, I think I can't tell if he's much better or much worse. I think he's better, but the reason why he's better is going to sound really dumb. I think he's better because his ulti hitbox is insane. So I don't know if you've seen some of the videos on what his ulti now. He starts small and it gets bigger, and he does more damage as it travels, and the hitbox gets bigger. However, the hitbox is really unclear, and all the skins have like different things that you can't tell what the hitbox is. So for instance, one skin is like a carrot, and another skin is like a UFO, and I'm just like, and one's a shark, and it's like they have different sizes. I'm just so confused if I'm getting hit with it or not. I just think it's not clear at all what the size of the hitbox is, and it probably is too big in the first place. I think Fizz got buffed just because the ability for you to land a fish is much, much easier, in my opinion, because the hitbox is legit like the size of the moon. On top of that, I don't know if I really like the new W mechanic, which does more damage, but I understand that it kind of made him... They spaced out the damage, so it relies on you to do more damage over time. I think overall Fizz Snowball is like a monster now, and I kind of like the rework, but I just wish there's more visual clarity with his ulti, because I legit can't tell the hitbox to save my life. Maybe they should nerf the hitbox size too, because it feels very, very big. But yet to be determined on just how strong he is. I think he is a little bit better though. Kha Zix, I think this is the real winner, one of the real big winners of the Assassin rework. I'm not gonna really go too much over his evolutions because I'm not sure what's best, because everyone is like, you can evolve any of these evolutions at any moment in certain situations, and I have not played enough Kha Zix to really talk about it. I've played against Kha Zix here and there though. I think that for Kha Zix, because like, for instance, big buff monsters lost their like small counterparts, you're able to clear the big buffs a lot easier, and generally it feels like he became a higher tier jungler because everything kind of worked in his favor toward doing that. I think that because of that, Kha Zix, on like the jungle tier list, I don't know where he was before. He moved up almost a full tier because of how the new jungle reworks works. I think that makes him very, very strong. Whether or not his new... him losing the W slow feels kind of bad, actually, and his new Q kind of feels... like they trade off the damage for lower cooldown when isolated. I understand. I think Kha Zix is pretty good. And he got better with the patch. I don't really have much else to say outside of that, because it feels like generally his playstyle is the exact same. However, he just became better due to the jungle changes and his own personal buffs. Akali, I think this champion lost like a lot of sustain, because, and her new passive is really weird. The only good thing I like about a kit is the repositioning yourself. You can go over walls with it. I think it's really, really cool. Actually, adds a small amount of mobility that is nice, and the fact that you can't pink the W really opens up her ability to team fight more, in my opinion. I think it's really nice that you can't do that now. However, the trade off is that she lost damage, like huge base damage and huge cooldown on her ulti, which I don't think was necessary. And it just felt in general that like she just got worse overall. And I think that's why they're buffing her a lot in the PBE. I don't think Akali is very good right now, and the buffs will help quite a bit bring her back in line. Zed. Generally, I think Zed just got nerfed. Like, I don't. I just feel like the new ulti thing is just kind of a gimmick because it's like, well, Zed. A lot of times Zed kills ADs. To be honest, every assassin kills ADs fairly easy. So because he kills ADs, we're giving you more of a chance to get rewarded for killing ADs, but it's not really a reward. We just took away the bonus AD overall and decided that we'll give you something like this if you kill someone, but before you do it, like, you're actually like not that strong, and on top of that we're nerfing your early E, and so you lane worse as well, so snowballing is harder with the champion. I don't know, just in general it felt like Zed was fine before and decided to just like change him, and the change wasn't very good. I think it's like definitely more gimmicky rather than more cool to play like a fun mini game. And I think that just in general, like outside of maybe like Zed versus Jhin where you can collect free AD, it's overall a net nerf on the champion, which I'm not very happy about. I will say that I haven't played too much of Zed, so it's something that I'm willing to wait and find out more about in the future. Speaking about not playing too much about, Ekko is a champion that I haven't played at all in this new patch, but luckily I do talk to people who play with a lot of Ekko, namely Shifter. Used to be like quite a prolific Ekko main. In general, AP Ekko seems a lot better because you regain much more health. However, losing the slow and passive really did kind of hurt. I think it's not bad. It does reward you more for going in to work around your W, especially, but you W interaction with your ulti. However, you still see most Echoes throw W early to try to catch the initial initiation with it and save ulti for when they can play the team fight out a little bit longer. So it's not doesn't necessarily have too much use. However, it is another interesting option to throw that will reward you for being more aggressive with your W, which I think is something that's nice with the champion. Overall, it didn't seem to really do anything for AP Ekko. Like, realistically, it's not going to really do much. Moving to Shaco, this is the one I'm the most iffy about. I don't know, because there's a couple Shaco mains, but I've only talked to one. Overall, I've been told that Shaco, it feels like Shaco did get a buff. However, he lost a lot of his early ganking potential with his Q stealth. However, a lot of people are going AP now, and I saw that before with Luden's Ekko. But with like new AP ratio on his Q, and he has like triple boxes on his ulti, AP seems to be a very viable route now. I think that's kind of cool. However, I need to see more Shaco to really see how good he is. He still seems like he doesn't transition too well, but it's okay to not be able to transition too well into late game if you're able to bring enough of some core strength into early mid. And a good example is Aurelion Sol, because that champion didn't scale well at all after 2 items. However, he still got played a lot because his early game was so good that he was able to still see a ton of play because of that. Overall, I like to end on the fact that I don't think assassins are very good. Just in general, I think that exhaust being in the game is really, really detrimental to assassins, and so is the relative strength of supports as well, and shielding being the key offender at the moment. I think that mid long range mages that are really, really strong right now can either out assassinate assassins, which sounds so stupid, but for champions like Syndra it's true, or have more control of a fight, like bring similar damage while being at a safer range and scaling better. So a good example is like, at what point do I want an assassin when I can have Syndra, who is ranged and can do assassin level damage from like a safer range, as well as provide pick potential for like in this area. And Syndra is a really harsh example to compare to, because she's probably one of the best mid lane casters in the game. And so, not even looking at Syndra, you look at Ryze, another overtuned mid laner, where he does insane amount of damage, he can kill frontline and backline, and he brings a lot he's highly mobile, like wave clear, all this stuff. So I think in general, like when you still look at the overall power level of assassins comparatively to like mid long range mages, I think range mages are way better. Like everyone just wants to play assassins because it's so boring to play only long range mages. I only think, but in general, I only think only a couple assassins really are gonna see a lot of play. Like especially when it comes down to it, it's gonna be like what Talon, LeBlanc. In terms of laning assassins are the only ones you're gonna see play, because the other ones don't lane well enough. And if you really wanted to shut down assassins, like people would just be running Karma every single game because no assassin right now can get through the shielding and like the pressure that essentially Karma brings, and that's pretty annoying. I think it's hard to evaluate some changes because Flex Q kind of opens you up to getting paired with a bunch of different skill level players, and so even if you do really well in one game, you're not really sure if you did super well or it's because the opponent didn't really like force you to play like in the most optimal way because he just didn't know what to do. So yeah, I don't think you're gonna see many assassins in like high elo slash maybe in solo queue it's fine. Especially champions like for instance LeBlanc, Talon. I think we'll see a lot of a solo queue pressure, especially if they're kept in the same way they are right now. However, in terms of competitive, I don't really see any of the assassins being brought out outside of maybe LeBlanc, which kind of sucks. But I mean, I guess baby steps. Okay, but let's move on. The second, I guess, I wanted to say this. So 6.22 was like the assassin rework patch. To be honest, for me, it was the support patch because the support itemization is stupidly strong right now. I think that Redemption Locket, the fact that it stacks with wind speakers and the shield plus healing items is just absurd. You have champions like Ivern, which I play all the time, jungling, skipping the jungle item and rushing the Redemption into Locket because the items are ridiculously overtuned. Let's just talk about Redemption real quick. So look at the Redemption item. It's 5,500 range, which is like half the map. One, it doesn't. Let's just talk about the item. It's an AOE summoner heal that heals for more than summoner heal actually. So I've healed up to 800, 900 healing with Redemption if you have shielding items and wind speakers. So it's potentially a better heal, and it also does AoE damage, max percentage true damage, and it does wave clear. The item itself could lose the wave clear. And it can be used while you're dead. It can lose the use while dead. The range can be effectively cut by 2/3. It can lose the wave clear, or I said that it can lose the percentage max damage and just have the heal, and it would still be a good item. Like it's just like stupidly overtuned in my opinion. And the fact that this kind of itemization stacks with like the shield healing onto everything kind of compounds the problem because maybe it would be fine without those kind of things, but if you're casting the heal on a runic armor champion with like you having wind speakers and like crucible or ardent censer or grail, you're literally shielding for like 500, 600, healing for like 800, 900. I think that's absurd actually. The fact that everything stacks and there's really no counterplay to shields because you can't mortal strike a shield. And then you have Locket. So they were like, you know what? We don't want Locket to be mandatory because they want a better balance MR, and against even 1 or 2 MR comps, you'd still buy Locket because the aura is just way too good. Okay, cool. We scrapped the aura. It's out. We're just gonna give you an armor MR item with a shield buff. All right, buy by me. Why does the shield for 600? Like what? You can't counterplay shields. So even if it's an item that has 60 MR, and if I'm against 0 MR, 0 AP champion, I would still build the item because it's stupidly, like Redemption, if you hit multiple targets, stupidly cost efficient. A 600 shield that scales with wind speakers and all the shielding items, I can shield like potentially 700. If I have a Locket, I would tell another person, a tank on my team, to also buy Locket because a 300 shield is still really good and still really valuable. I think that Locket and Redemption are both insanely overtuned, and it's really funny they overtune defensive items on a patch where they introduce assassins into the game. Champions that are the worst at being able to deal with this kind of life-saving items. So in general, like, it's called the assassin patch, but actually I think support itemization is just the best it's ever been, or like just stupid, and every support can buy these two items and do well. And if you're not a support, you're a tank, you still buy Locket and still do well. And probably both of those items need to be nerfed. That's pretty much all I have to say about the current patch. Plants are in the game. At first, I hated plants. Like, just the idea of plants just made it sound like a gimmick. To me, right now, I'm pretty neutral. It still is kind of a gimmick, but it doesn't make me feel like... I feel like it doesn't take too much away from the game. It's added there. It's like they added clown hats onto the map. Like, it's cool. It may make some interesting stuff happen. I don't really think it opens up too much stuff, and I don't think it does too many bad things into the game. So the idea of plants for me is like a net neutral. It may grow to love them or hate them in the future. At the moment, they're kind of just whatever. But it's hard. It's like, I will say this before I move on to what I think should change. Evaluating the current patch is a little bit difficult because Flex Q, you have all skill levels all over the place again, so I can't tell exactly perfectly what works well and what doesn't. And because of that, a lot of people are also trying out assassins, so team comps are optimized. So there were the first couple of days, mid and top and jungle all chose assassins. And so of course, if you're the AD carry with no frontline and no peeling, it's gonna suck. So the AD carry role might have sucked a lot to play in the early seasons when they introduced all these new champions. However, I feel like as the game progresses, you're not gonna have people choose 3 assassins every game. And instead, there will be like maybe 1 or at most 2. And because of that, like the comps will be a lot better balanced, so you can see the relative strength of roles. I know AD carries may not have had much fun in the last like week or so, but definitely it's gonna be smoothed out. And with the strength of support items, I feel like ADs are probably in a great spot right now too. Outside of Lucian, I'm sorry if you're a Lucian player. Let's move on to what I think they should change about the game. I have a list of stuff and things. Generally, I think, okay, all of this are things that should be nerfed, changed in the game. So I think if these are nerfed, the game itself will be better, just in general. So I think exhaust should be nerfed. I think the fact that you can't remove a QSS kind of sucks. It'd be really cool, I think, if they brought back QSS, the ability to remove exhaust with QSS. Or it really does neuter a lot of champions. Not only does it neuter assassins, also neuters ADs. And I think that it should speak a lot that even in kill lanes, people don't bring Ignite sometimes because exhaust is just so valuable that it shuts people down like completely. I think that the relative strength of exhaust is what's holding back a lot of assassins rather than the rework itself. Exhaust is just too powerful of a summoner spell. Secondly, still on summoner spells, Ghost is OP. I don't really know how else to say it. This summoner spell got buffed in multiple ways. I think the first way was they took the Distortion enchant and like kind of put it onto Ghost and lowered the cooldown by itself naturally, and they increased the base move speed naturally. That plus the fact that people started taking Insight rather than in the third Master Tree instead of going on the first Master Tree with Thunderlords. As well as the fact that CDR boots also lowers your summoner cooldown by 10%, caused there to be like insanely short cooldowns for mobility summoners. I think it's really stupid right now. The mid lane meta is Ghost Flash, and you aggress by ghosting at someone, and they run away by ghosting away. I think that Ghost should be a situational summoner spell to be used. You lose a lot of early pressure using Ghost, however you gain like maybe a little bit of roam potential, but you really gain late game team fighting. I think right now Ghost is causing, especially mid lane, to just be too hard to gank sometimes because you could just ghost away, and due to the very low cooldown of it, because you're running like two or three things that lower summoner CDR, as well as the fact that they already got buffed that way, it just feels like I think the Ghost is way too overtuned. And of course, Ghost does lead to cool scenarios where they ghost, they dodge like 6 skill shots, you feel like a monster. However, I think that there really isn't. It's like crowding out other summoners like Exhaust, TP, and Ignite because it's just way too powerful of a summoner as is. I think the easiest way to do it is just nerf the cooldown of it because it got buffed recently to make more people use it. Now too many people are using it. It should be nerfed again. I think Ghost is way too good. moving on, we talked a little bit about it. Redemption's disgusting. I think that they can legit remove everything but the heal portion and the use on death, and they should just nerf the amount healed. Or they should increase the cost of the item. I think the item's just way too good. I don't like gold efficiency wise. I think it's worth anywhere between it's 93% gold efficient from what I understand, and it can be up to like 200% gold efficient if it hits multiple targets or more from what I understand, which is personally absurd. I just think it's too good. Continuing on with that, we talked about Locket as well. The shield is just too high. So for these support items, like I would say increase the cost, which actually kind of sucks because support typically have very low gold income. So increasing the cost would be just, I feel like means that supports just buy less items in most games, which I think isn't very good. So because of that, I think just lowering the effectiveness of the items is a much better route. So Locket shielding 600, probably not cool. Should probably be nerfed to like 400, 300. It's just too good. Skirmishing Smite. I thought this item would be nerfed anyways. I think there's a real problem when like Skirmishing Smite for me, the idea of Skirmishing Smite is okay, you're looking to scrap out a lot of the game. You're like a Sin Zhao and you just want to like beat the other guy down. You want to skirmish them. You want to make it so that like you get a benefit for like scrapping out another person. I think it would make a lot more sense if Skirmishing Smite did something like Kha Zix where you do additional damage to champions, or like if they're isolated or something like that. However, what actually Skirmishing Smite is a damage reduction debuff that does true damage, which is like actually stupid. We have champions like Nunu taking Skirmishing Smite. Like literally everyone takes Skirmishing Smite unless you're playing Volibear or Skarner, something where movement speed is so good that you're willing to give up Skirmishing the active. But it's Skirmishing Smite actually turns into, oh, I'm going to use this to make sure I can 1v1 you better, to I'm going to use this to reduce damage and make sure I can just kill you even if I have full tank items. I think that this, either the damage reduction part needs to be nerfed or like the true damage needs to be nerfed. Something, the idea of Skirmishing Smite shouldn't overpower every other thing that's not like the trinket item because you need more vision on the map. I don't know. I think Skirmishing Smite is just way too good, in my opinion, and it should be nerfed. Let's go to champions. So I talked a little bit about mid lane mages being problematic. Two I pointed out were Ryze and Syndra. I think Ryze and Syndra are both stupid. Should be nerfed. So right now, laning phase is really, really important, and those two, and Syndra is a good example of a champion that I think she got a buff that made it really, really hard to play. So her W picking up multiple balls was really, really hard to. I don't know if she didn't need that. It caused her to make sure her ulti gets like insane number of balls, so it does way more damage than she could do before, in my opinion. As well as the fact that it gave her way too much control. Being able to throw 3 balls in and E means that even if you're like, even if you disconnect your mouse, as long as you hit your E button and your mouse is in the area in front of you, you're gonna hit someone with your E. And so like there's less skill involved hitting the E skill shot in the first place. I think that generally that's just bad. I don't know. I think what they should do is that they should either increase the cooldown on W to make it like more like focused on you having to do that, or just reduce the number of balls, increase to just 1. And that way it's I just feel like the damage, like Syndra itself is just too powerful, and I think it needs tuning in some way. I also welcome the idea of nerfing the base damage on her abilities, especially her ulti, and having it more important for you to stack up balls so she does more damage the more balls that there are. That way, it forces you to try to play and set up a situation where you do maximum amount of damage. Additionally, if your Q confirms onto them, you do additional damage. I think that our Q or E hits them, you doing additional damage to the champion, I think is another cool way to do it, because it does feel bad when you like miss, if the person misses the Q, misses the W, misses the E, and ults you and kills you. Regardless of not if they're fed or not, like the one ulti could do like 80, 90, 100% of your health. And that feels like Syndra's a better assassin than every assassin in the game. And that's, I think, wrong. So, additionally, after that, Ryze, I think, is problematic as well. I'm sure at some point he's going to get reworked again because, let's be honest, this champ is stupid. So for some reason, the idea of Ryze is he's a machine gunning mage. So he just fling out spells. And the thing that makes him a machine gunner is the fact that he has flat CDR in his kit when he casts spells. So he can just gun out spells. But what actually ends up happening is that rather than gunning out spells, you're kind of just you're put in a situation where I think that it's impossible to balance because flat CDR with scaling CDR just makes it so that if the champion can't hit max CDR, he's able to just do too much. And on top of that, so in every iteration of Ryze or something, there's been a shield associated with his spell cast. So in this iteration, not only does he gain a shield, he gains a shield and mobility, so he's able to be highly mobile, control the pace of the fight while still doing insane, absurd amounts of machine gun damage. Um, I think he should be nerfed in some way. Rather probably his mobility, like his damage is pretty strong, but maybe the mobility or the cooldown somewhere or the base damage somewhere. I would personally hit the mobility and shielding first because it feels stupid to like at least maybe add a cooldown to shield so you can't shield 3 times in like 8 seconds. Yeah, sure you lose damage for it, but it's like you gain mobility and shield every time, which seems wrong to me. After that, so there's a current bug in the game where LeBlanc's double ulti resets her cooldowns. That should be removed for obvious reasons because I think that on front page Reddit there's a post where legit LeBlanc just kills everyone, and I'm just like, huh. All right, feels really weird, in my opinion. It does feel super strange for me to see her use 3 E's in one rotation. Very simple. It's just a bug. Just get rid of it, and so I can see the relative strength of the champion. Lastly, Courage of the Colossus. This mastery is absurd. When I first did the patch preview, I was like, this is gonna get nerfed instantly. It reminds me of like initial Warlords or initial Fervor, initial Thunderlords where it just got nerfed, or initial Grasp got nerfed instantly because it's just too strong. The base damage value is super high, and the amount you can get up to a 35% health shield. That's an absurd. Like just nerf the number somewhere. I think it's dumb that this mastery alone brought back a lot of melee supports because they just run in and like kill you. Actually, they initiate and they set up the fight so well that you can't turn and kill them because they're given like a 100, 200 health shield early, so that any kind of harass you put on them for doing that, even if they run away, is kind of negated almost by half at least. I think that on top of this, it opens up really problematic abuse champions where it's like stuff like Poppy, champion that's really good right now, gets even stronger. Zac jumps in with 8 billion health, gets a shield for 35% of his health, and just tanks the whole team. I think the numbers on maybe the master itself isn't too problematic. The numbers are just way too high. And so to the point where like, Renekton's Ignite are taking this so that they trade better in lane. Like how instead of taking a damage mastery, you're taking a shield mastery. This seems really stupid to me. This is probably a really big factor on why a lot of champions are relatively strong because this mastery itself is just insanely broken in the preseason and it should be nerfed instantly. Lastly, I have some things that I'm not sure if they should be nerfed, but things that just off the top of my head that might be helpful. So the first thing is Tower Gold. I think Tower Gold is actually just... I don't like the idea that a single person gets 600 gold from initial tower. I get even splitting it seems okay, but the fact that you can funnel gold into 600 is really bad. I think in general, because the game is so lane centric, like I don't mind having early leads and snowballing. I think first tower being at 400 gold overall wouldn't even lower the importance of first tower by that much. However, the fact that it's 600 gold means that you want to be picking early snowball champions that pressure lane really hard because you have to lane well in this current meta. And I think that taking away the first tower gold might increase a little bit of champion diversity. Like you can afford to give up the first tower sometimes to be able to play like maybe a scaling comp and take that kind of risk. However, at the moment, like when AD carries like Caitlyn or God, I think that it's really silly to play into those types of champions. I don't mind the idea that the team groups around and breaks the first tower. I think it's kind of cool actually, but just the amount of gold that it gives just seems too high to me, especially in such a snowballing meta, early game meta. Secondly, I think Karma is problematic. I think she's been problematic for a while. She's been one of the best supports in the game for a long period of time. Synergizes with a lanes super well. Synergizes with a wide variety of champions, and she has great utility all throughout the game. Like she's not like Nami, which lanes well but tends to fall off. She's someone she lanes well and she's really good at doing almost everything. And so I think that she's been strong for a long period of time, and she kind of crowds out a lot of APs, and that I think there should be maybe numbers nerfs somewhere in her kit, because in general she kind of reminds me of, I don't know, she's probably one of the most impressive picks on top of the fact that she can also go into solo lanes because and like just straight up counter more like dive oriented comps. Although she's not the best in solo lanes because there are better champions like Syndra, like Ryze, who are just really good. Again, these are all my personal opinions on the matter. I think the fact that Karma may not be that much of a problem at the moment. However, I think that she's been just way too good for her period of time, and maybe like minor nerfs onto her would help be able to bring other champions in. Lastly is Rengar. I think Rengar, I guess I'm not looking for nerfs as much as I'm looking for visual clarity on the champion. Maybe I just want to make sure I know what I'm doing against this champ. I touched upon it a little bit before, but this champion itself, I literally just want to be able to know if he's CCable, when he's auto attacking, like what damage comes from what. I think that Ryze did a lot of times a lot of assassin works where they space out the damage a lot. It feels like Rengar didn't really happen. Like sure, he doesn't kill you instantly, but he kills you within like the next second or next 2 seconds, and it really doesn't feel like there's super high amounts of counterplay outside of stacking like 28 shields, because shields and healing are like unbearably broken at the moment. Anyways, that's my general overview about the current patch and maybe the state of the game, as well as stuff that I'd like to see in the future. Let me know what you guys think. This kind of ran relatively long, maybe a little bit longer than I expected. I kind of thought this would be a 20-minute, 10-minute video, and I just realized that it's hard for me to really talk for 10 minutes. Also, I think my scene changed in the middle of this, so it's gonna look really awkward when I give this when this comes out, but we'll do better next time. Thank you. Oh! I tried to hide behind him. We were so close to being able to get that double.